Now we start with Russia and Ukraine. An overnight drone attack by Ukraine temporarily disrupted power and heating supplies in the southwestern Russian city of Voronezh, which is the administrative center of the wider Voronezh region. According to the regional governor Alexander Gusev, the attack caused no injuries to the civilians. Meanwhile, several drones were suppressed by electronic warfare systems, which sparked a fire at a utility facility that was quickly extinguished by the forces. Ukraine has stepped up long-range drone and missile strikes inside of Russia, hitting oil refineries, depots, and logistics hubs. It says freed the Kremlin's war machine. Now, for this discussion, we welcome Gilbert Doctorow. He's a Russian affairs expert, joins us live from Brussels. Thank you very much for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, looking at this, what is your analysis on the current situation of Ukraine-Russia war and what could be potential political, also diplomatic repercussions if Ukraine and Russia both follow attacks on civilian infrastructure, even if no casualties are occurring?
The attacks yesterday or during the night in Russia by Ukraine seem to be two in number. One is the feature that you have brought out, is the Voronezh attack, and the other is an attack on Belgrade. Now, the attack on Voronezh is interesting in a couple of ways. One is location. This is 670 kilometers from the northeastern border of Ukraine-Russia. And if it indeed was a drone attack, as you report, then it is in line with the long-range drone program of Ukraine. However, I also saw a report in Russian news that it was a missile attack, which, if correct, would definitely require some attention because it's not clear that Ukraine itself has any missiles, Soviet-era missiles, with that type of range. The other attack was clearly stated by Russian news to have been a missile attack, and that was within the capabilities of Soviet vintage missiles in the arsenal of Ukraine. It was in the city of Belgrade, which is maybe 50 or 60 kilometers from possible launching sites within Ukraine. It is a border city. It is an area that was invaded briefly by Ukraine a year ago, before they staged a very big incursion in the next neighboring Russian province of Kursk. In the case of Belgrade, the Russians report that serious damage was done to the heating and electricity infrastructure, and that 20,000 civilian homes or apartments were without power for some time. In the case of Voronezh, we don't know the extent of serious damage to infrastructure, but apparently it was a thermal generating plant, a kind of plant that heats homes, and it sustained some damage. Electricity was also shut down for reasons that these are interrelated infrastructure, but we don't have a full report.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Gilbert Doctorow, for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you after taking this breaking news. There's a breaking news. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has stated that ending the conflict in Ukraine is impossible without addressing its root causes and taking Russian interest into account. Lavrov has emphasized the importance of maintaining regular contact with the United States to discuss the Ukrainian issue. He has also expressed Russia's readiness to hold in-person meetings with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Lavrov's comments come as the second meeting on Ukrainian war between U.S. President Donald Trump and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in Budapest was cancelled. Now, for this discussion, we welcome back Gilbert Doctorow. He's a Russian affairs expert, joins us live from Brussels. Thank you very much for staying with us. Now, looking at this, do you think there is a possibility that Russia is hinting on another summit or another plan for summit, as it says that it is open to talks? And when do you think, if this were to happen, could occur, or where?
Well, this news is interesting for a reason different from what you're suggesting. I'll come back to that in a second. But the reason why it's so interesting is that in the last few days, there were reports in Western media that Mr. Lavrov is in an open dispute with his boss, Vladimir Putin, and that his resignation or removal from office was something that was possibly underway. By his reappearance in public space to make the statement that you have quoted, we can be confident that Mr. Lavrov is firmly in his position as Russia's foreign minister. He was reiterating the positions that both Putin and others in the Russian government have been making for the last several weeks. That is to say that the present position of Trump and Zelensky is unacceptable. That Mr. Trump has gone back on his word given to the Russians during the Alaska meeting when he said that the Americans saw the need to address the root causes. That has now been pulled back, withdrawn, and the Americans are now back in the position of calling for an immediate ceasefire, unconditional, which the Russians categorically refuse to accept. So, as I say, there are two elements to the story. One is about the personal position of Mr. Lavrov, which is clear now, and the second is about the restatement of Russia's primary position that a peace is possible and a truce is possible only if the basic issues, meaning NATO's advancement to the east, Ukrainian neutrality, are addressed.
Right, that is so interesting as you mentioned. Can you briefly let us know, if you know, why was there a rift between, or reportedly a rift between the Foreign Minister Lavrov and his boss, or President Putin?
I emphasize that this reported rift was nowhere to be found in Russian media. It was found in Western media. And of course, there are a lot of people in Europe and the United States who would like to think that such a reputable and authoritative and widely respected foreign minister as Mr. Lavrov would have a dispute with his boss and could be a rift at the top. That is inconceivable from my perspective, because Mr. Lavrov in his whole career has been a loyal implementer of his boss. His boss when he was Putin, his boss when it was Mr. Medvedev who replaced Putin, and Mr. Putin again. So it's inconceivable to me that he would come out of policy positions in conflict with his boss.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Gilbert Doctorow for joining us and sharing that insight as a Russia affairs expert. Joined us live from Brussels. Thank you very much. Now we move on to US. US airlines have cancelled 1,460 flights on day 2 of the government-mandated flights cuts across the country. Thousands of flights have also been delayed, causing mounting travel woes as air traffic controller absences spiked amid the federal government shutdown. The Federal Aviation Administration reported major air traffic control staffing issues impacting 37 airport towers and other centers and delaying flights in at least 12 major U.S. cities. The FAA had instructed airlines to cut 4% of daily flights starting on November 7th at 40 major airports in U.S. because of air traffic control safety concerns. Reductions in flights are mandated to rise to 6% on November 11th and then hit 10% by November 14th. The shutdown, which has now reached a record 39 days, has led to shortages of air traffic controllers who have not been paid for weeks. Meanwhile, the Italian Foreign Ministry has said that local staff at some American military bases in Italy have not been paid due to the U.S. government shutdown. Italy has stated that about 2,000 non-military Italian employees, mainly at Aviano Air Base and the Vicenza Army Base in northeast Italy, missed their October pay despite being employed under Italian work contracts. The ministry has added that Rome is in talks with U.S. authorities to resolve this issue. Now for this discussion, we welcome retired Major General Dr. Rajan Kochhar. He's a senior strategic and defense expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much for joining us. Good to see you. Now looking at this, how is this prolonged U.S. government shutdown is now disrupting both domestic and even international obligations. How do you think it could influence the global confidence in U.S. economy and U.S. government's ability to maintain the strategic alliances and their responsibilities?
Very good question, Suma, because what is happening is that US would need to mend its own house, because if such a thing happens and they are not able to pay the staff of their NATO obligations, because US has got not only in Italy a large number of air bases in excess of around 150 all over the world. So it is going to impact the credibility of a superpower. And I think it's not that the US does not have the money. It's a wealthy country. But the problem is that the federal budget of the US requires an annual approval by the Congress. And normally such a thing will not happen. But the system has been made in such a way that the Congress controls the purse, because it has to decide on various issues like taxes, defense spending levels, social program like healthcare, education, welfare, climate and energy policy budget. So they are not able to decide on this as of now, because there is a difference of opinion within the Congress. So I think a model like India has on a vote on account, because it is extremely important that whatever the essential services are there, especially I'll give you example, if you don't have salaries for your armed forces, or if you don't have salaries for your government employees, then things will start impacting the security of the nation, and it will make people unsure of the government. So I think there has to be a certain mechanism. Though US has a system of debt ceiling politics, in the sense that there is a debt ceiling law in the US which limits how much money a government can actually borrow to pay the already approved expenses. But once that ceiling has been passed, I don't think government has got the power. So we are talking of a shutdown in the government. It's almost around 35 to 40 days now. So I don't think it should take so much of a time, because this will have a collateral damage. It will also show the weakness of the government to push through these kind of expenditures. So the real answer is that certain modifications to this law has to be made if things don't come to a conclusion as far as the budget is actually concerned. So in my final analysis, I feel it is a governance problem. It's not a financial capacity problem. So in case it is a governance problem, and these shutdowns are now becoming quite frequent, so I think US must start introspecting on this sort of a system, and China and Russia are going to take advantage of this situation, where your power centers which are outside, like the CENTCOM and other commands of the US, which are deployed either in the Middle East or the Indo-Pacific. I think these are essential expenditures and must be covered under any circumstances.
Yes, indeed. That's absolutely right. With that, I would like to thank Major General Dr. Kochhar for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for another discussion. Now we move on to China. China's Commerce Ministry has announced that it has